Hi there, I'm Juliana Tapper, and welcome to our workshop, Take Your Students Who Struggle from Failing to Flourishing. And I'm so excited to dig in. So let's go ahead and get started. So we are going to, in 1 hour, cover a proven roadmap to take your students who struggle from failing to flourishing. We are going to discover the biggest mistake that math teachers make with notes and exactly what to do instead. And we're going to discover the quickest way to catch students up to grade level. And this roadmap that we're going to talk about, it works for any 6th through 12th grade math teacher. If you're a math intervention teacher, that's great. If you're a core grade level math teacher with just a lot of students who struggle, this is the roadmap for you. If you're a special education teacher who teaches math, this is for you. A math interventionist or a remedial math course teacher or math lab or anything like that. Every school, every district seems to have a different name. This roadmap works for everyone. So once you start implementing this roadmap, you will start seeing a 50% decrease in your planning time. You will start seeing a 20% increase in your course pass rates, and you will start seeing 46% increase in daily student engagement once you start implementing this roadmap. So, and kind of digging into that data a little bit more, because I know we're all math people here, the average teacher who saw these gains, they started with 62.3% of their class passing and ended the semester with 81.8% of their class passing. So if you have 63% or, below or above that, of your class passing, you can end with up to 81% higher or lower than that. But that is the average of where teachers are starting this roadmap and where they are able to end in just one semester. When we switch to talking about that data on engagement, the average teacher who saw these gains started with 43.4% of their class being engaged every day and watched it increase to 89.1%. So less than half of their class was participating every day. And now 89.1% of their class participates and engages every single day. I want you to just think about that and think about how it would feel to have 89.1% of your students participating every single day in your lessons. And we're talking about specifically students who struggle. So here's just one teacher, Melissa, who works at a Title I high school in Michigan. Here's what she had to say about this roadmap. There's almost 100% work completion amongst my students. Their confidence and motivation has gone up, and she has the lowest failure rate in her department. How amazing, right? Not only is that great qualitative data, but there are quantitative data to this roadmap as well. So Melissa personally saw her proficiency on district common finals increase from 60% to 90% by implementing this roadmap. And in her engagement has increased as well. She was having her formal admin observation, and she had a 96% engagement at every 3-minute interval during that observation. Like, how amazing for her job security there. And as a reminder, 89.1% was just the average. Many teachers achieved 100. You can see Chastity, Laurie, and Benny right there. Benny saying 100% of the class was engaged. So it's just so exciting to see so many teachers having such huge impacts with this roadmap. So who would like to have more engagement and higher student achievement in their math classes? I hope you can give me, a virtual high five, a virtual amen that you want those things. The problem is that there's no good resource on increasing engagement and achievement specifically for our students who struggle. It really bothers me when I see a university professor write a book about math interventions who hasn't actually ever taught a math interventions class or students. Or you do a Google search for math intervention resources and it reveals all elementary level and looking resources. And we know that our older students are going to ball that paper up like you see on this screen if it has little kid clip art and looks little kid to them. Or it bothers me when I see curriculum experts assuming that one curriculum or instructional style works for all students, when in reality, our students have different needs and we need to be able to respect that. So I understand that right now your students might be apathetic. They might be saying, I hate math, or I'm not a math person. They might be putting their heads up, their heads down, sorry, and their hoodies up. That happened to me all the time. Or they might be struggling with basics like multiplication. Maybe that is why you signed up today. And if that weren't enough, we're also usually voluntold to teach intervention without any real resources. Or we have so many students in our core grade level classes that can't multiply, yet we need to teach them things like the quadratic formula. And sure, we know about differentiation, but what about when the whole class is behind? What are we supposed to do then? No one prepared us for this. This is something that we are all facing as math teachers, and we're just not prepared. How do I know all this? I know this because I've actually been a math intervention teacher. I taught high school math intervention and high school algebra 1 in South Central Los Angeles, East San Jose, and Denver. And I've never had a group of ninth graders who could multiply or add negative numbers. I've never had a group of ninth graders that know their multiplication facts. I've been cussed out. There have been fights in my room, you name it. And I've seen it in my own classroom. But I also know the joy of seeing students who have historically been unsuccessful in math finally begin to have those aha moments that we all became math teachers for. So I know how to take a classroom full of students who have failed math every year since fifth grade and get them not just passing algebra, but thriving in mathematics. And these are actually my students who they were in a 10th grade remedial algebra 1 class. They passed their high school exit exam on the first try. So this was certainly something to celebrate. I've also been a district math coach and had the absolute pleasure of being in hundreds of 6th through 12th grade math classrooms and special education math classrooms at this point to just support teachers and be a thought partner with them about what works and what doesn't for students who struggle. I've been able to see a lot. And I've also been an independent consultant. I left my classroom in 2018 to provide PD for teachers just like me, the ones with, who work with students who struggle, because I was tired of attending literacy trainings or elementary math trainings and trying to find a way to make it work in my unique classroom. So I've worked with some amazing schools and districts and organizations over the years, Department of Youth Services, Colorado Department of Education, just to name a few. And I have shared strategies and resources with rural schools, with urban schools, with Title I schools, with suburban school. And one thing remains the same, that teachers are grateful for PD and resources that speak to their unique needs as a math teacher with students who struggle. And that's what this mini workshop is all about. So I'm super, super excited. And this mini workshop is also about announcing my book, Teaching 612 Math Intervention. So surprise, you've all been invited to the party. And all of the classroom coaching and consulting experiences that I have made its way into the pages of this book. And I can't wait to share more with you. So you've all secretly been invited to the launch party, and there is going to be an action item for this roadmap. You do not need to buy the book. Every single step on this roadmap, you are going to have an action item to take from today without needing to pay a penny for the book. So I'm going to be telling you more about the book, but I'm also going to be sharing this roadmap freely with you. Because here's the thing, to talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. Every single strategy I'm going to tell you about today has been used in my own classroom, and they truly work. And this is the truth. When you know where you're going, you'll get there faster. So let's jump into that roadmap, shall we? I'm so excited. Introducing the Break It Math Intervention Framework. This is going to help teachers break the gatekeeping cycles of mathematics. And there are 3 phases. Phase 1 is student engagement. That's made up of the 2 steps, B and R. And then phase 2 is student achievement. That's made up of 2 more steps. Steps E and A. And then phase 3 is student motivation. And that is the final step, step K. And so we are all going to start at the bottom and we're going to work our way up. It does need to be rolled out sequentially. So just keep that in mind as you think about applying these strategies into your classroom. So we're going to start with phase 1, step 1, build community, and we all must start here. So for each step of the framework for our session today, or for the roadmap, you will hear more about how I learned that step. You'll learn more about the frameworks I use to help share, each step with other teachers. And most importantly, you are going to see how you can use it today, even if you don't spend a penny on the book. So that each step is going to be divided into those 3 sections. So let me take you on a little trip down memory lane to the struggles of my first year of teaching. I was teaching math support in South Central Los Angeles. And on this particular day, I was really struggling with a student named Justice. And I just felt like I was at odds with her, begging her to be on task. Maybe you've been in a similar situation with some of your students. I was saying things like, Justice, take the notes. Justice, stop talking. Justice, did you hear what I just said? And then the bell rang and I said, Justice, stay after class for a minute. And then the response that will be etched in my mind forever, I don't think I'll ever forget this moment in my whole entire life. She said, Sucka, word that begins with a D, followed by a word that begins with a B. And I ran out of my classroom crying at that point. My principal actually had to find me in the bathroom. And all of this just points to the fact that I had not built a community that was very great in that class. I really clearly was struggling with building community. And Justice and I did have a restorative conversation. We went on to have an okay year together. But, it really revealed that I had not built a positive community. If I'm getting cussed out, if things like that are happening, it is not a positive community. And if a student feels, like it's okay to do those things, I know that I have failed in that community department. So I thought I needed to do things like class bingo or student surveys where they tell me about their dream cars or a birthday wall, in my classroom. But here's the thing, when we are teaching students who struggle, we're not just building community. We have to build an intentional community specifically for students who have been historically unsuccessful in mathematics. And turns out it's not class bingo and dream car surveys and birthday walls. It's actually intentional activities that help students identify, process, and overcome math trauma and math anxiety. Because I'm pretty certain that students who have failed math for multiple years have experienced some sort of math trauma or math anxiety. So now that you know a bit more about how I learned this first step, let's dig into the frameworks. So if your students, are they struggling with goofing off and distracting others all period? Are they constantly asking to go to the bathroom during math class? Are they showing no desire or intention to do any work? And are they also struggling to retain information from day to day or recall basic facts like multiplication that they should have mastered long ago? Or are they struggling with the ability to problem solve and persevere in math? The thing is that behavior and these retention, recall, and problem solving struggles are intimately connected and intertwined. So the good news is that if you signed up for this workshop to find out how to help your kids learn their multiplication facts, the answer is not actually how you're teaching the multiplication facts. The answer is that we need to look into brain science a little bit to see how this all is going to come together. So this little picture of a brain is pointing at one specific area of the brain called the amygdala, and it is the brain center associated with processing fear. And we know from this study, the neurodevelopmental basis of math anxiety. I encourage you to check it out. It's right there along the bottom of your screen. You can Google it, this peer-reviewed journal article. When students with math anxiety see numbers, hyperactivity takes place in their amygdala, in that fear center of the brain. And that hyperactivity actually triggers our primal brain to go into fight or flight, into that like trauma mode. So if you are having students constantly asking to go to the bathroom, that is the key to you. Their amygdala is hyperactive and they are going into flight mode. They are trying to flee from the situation by asking to go to the bathroom. If you have a lot of students who are off task, disruptive, disrespectful, or combative even, that is telling you their amygdala is hyperactive because of math anxiety, possibly, or math trauma, or trauma in general. And they are going into fight mode. Their primal brain is sending them into fight mode to protect them. So retention, recall, and problem-solving centers of the brain cannot function. That is what was discovered in that study. So those behaviors, right? That is their primal brain reaction. And when they display those behaviors, we now know that they're doing that because their amygdalas are hyperactive, which means not only the behavior issues, but it means it's actually impossible for them to retain information for the next day, to recall those multiplication facts they learned, long ago. And it's so challenging for them to utilize the problem-solving centers of their brain and hit into that perseverance because their amygdala has been hijacked. So to help students with this, to calm that amygdala down, we must help them process and move past their math trauma. So we have to look to trauma-informed research. I know that's kind of a buzzword, can kind of be a trigger word to keep talking about trauma-informed practices, but we need to look at it specifically for math trauma and help students rebuild their relationship with math. So in the book, I lay out 4 activities that you must do to build this intentional community that helps students identify, process, and overcome math trauma and math anxiety. And they have these 4 themes. We want to give students hope. The H stands for honesty. We need to be honest with our students about the purpose of our math class. We need to give them an opportunity to have some ownership in our math class. We need to hear from them and help them to see a purpose bigger, outside of the 4 walls of our classroom. What is the purpose? And then finally, we need to give them a chance to explain their math anxiety or their math trauma to us. There is actually wonderful research that says if students write down and explain their math anxiety and just put pen to paper, that helps lessen the math anxiety. That will help decrease the hyperactivity in the amygdala so that students can retain information, can recall facts that they need, can problem solve. So Olivia tried what I call the mathography. It's one of the activities I share in the book, and it's just asking students to share about their past in math, to write a math biography of sorts. And she said, I'm so glad I did this, and honestly can't believe how honest they were. This gave me a whole new understanding on how these students that I have had for 2 years feel when they approach math. I'm going to use this activity every year. And there is such science that writing that mathography is going to help them heal that relationship with their math anxiety. So you know how I learned it. You know more about these frameworks that we want to give our students hope. We want to ask them to write their math biographies. And now let's see how we can use it today. So my one big tip for step 1 is to give an exit ticket tomorrow with just one question. I want you to ask your students this exit question or put it on a Google survey. Do you feel safe to make public math mistakes in this class in front of your peers and your teacher? And if you get more no's than you want, that is just a really good indication that, classroom community and building that intentional community for students who have struggled should be number 1 on your to-do list. And it's okay if you get more no's than you're expecting or that you want. What matters is that we move forward and we help them to build that community that we know that they need. So step 1 was building community. Step 2 are integrating routines to boost confidence. So this is still part of phase 1, trying to increase that student engagement. And so let's talk about how I learned this one. So I'm curious to hear how you start your math period. So think about that. And I know my first year, I used to start my class the way I had experienced math class. I would review homework problems, right? Ask the whole class, what questions do you have from the homework? We'd get a list going and we'd spend some time reviewing homework problems. Or maybe we'd review yesterday's lesson. Or maybe we would assess prior knowledge and see what they know about what I'm teaching in the lesson that day. But if I'm being honest, I struggled with engagement and behavior issues from the very moment the bell rang in my class. Students were goofing off. They were having side conversation with their friends. They were on their phones. And when I look back at it now, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of my students didn't even do the homework. So why would they care about reviewing it? Of course, they're going to goof off or talk to their friends or be on their phones. And sometimes, our students can't do their homework for very good reasons. Sometimes they have a job after school. Sometimes they're picking up their siblings and have to watch them. Sometimes they just don't have a place to do homework. And so they might be feeling excluded, shame, or embarrassment that they didn't do the homework. Right. And all of that, whether it's a good reason or not that they don't do their homework, it's not a great way to start a new class period. By my 5th year in the classroom, I had figured out something better. So if I spent the first 5 to 10 minutes of the class doing warm-ups that did these 3 things, focused on reasoning, that I could introduce without math and then layer the math in, and that had multiple correct answers. Some of them, you can see them right here. These are my favorite. The period started off on such a better foot, and students truly began to grow in their confidence and their ability to do and think about mathematics. So now that we know how I learned it, let's talk about some of these frameworks. So there are actually 6 activity structures that do those 3 things, right? Focus on reasoning, can be introduced without math, and have multiple correct answers. I call them the 6 core engagement structures. And feel free to take a screenshot. You can Google each one of these and get great ideas about how to use them in your class. You're probably familiar with some of them. Which one doesn't belong? Same and different are both very popular. They're very, very powerful. And just stick around to the end because I've got a really cool way to kind of cheat sheet your way into these. So that's the framework, those 6 core engagement structures. How can you use it today? One big tip that I have for step 2 of the homework is taking you inside the same and different structure. And I could do a whole workshop on this, but I'm going to give you one tip. You just put 2 things, next to each other, and you ask your students, tell me 3 things that are the same and 3 things that are different. You can even screenshot this and do this with your kids tomorrow. You will hear such great academic vocabulary. You will hear students describing this in, common language. You can connect it to the academic language. It is so rich and it focuses on reasoning. This is math, but it can be introduced without math. You could do pictures of 2 different dogs or something, right? So you could get them comfortable with the structure. And there are multiple correct answers. One student might say, they're both monomials. One student might say, the top one has 2 parts, the bottom one has 4 parts. They might not have a ton of academic language to describe it, but there are multiple correct answers for this. So these structures work for so many students and so many teachers. This is Jessica. She's a Title I high school math teacher in Wisconsin. And she felt like she loved these 6 core engagement structures because her students have an access point to the content, like no matter where they are in their math journey. She says, I have seen tremendous growth in their ability to speak and communicate mathematically. And I like how she hits at this. Because our classroom culture is safe, students are willing to volunteer and also encourage their peers to share what they know. So that's why this is step 2, right? We have to build that community first, and then we can layer in these really great activities that get that confidence booming. And again, it's not just qualitative, but it's quantitative as well. Jessica's daily participation rate increased from 30% to 85% when she started implementing this whole roadmap. So step 1 was build community. Step 2 were routines to boost confidence. And after that, you should really see student engagement on the rise. And so once engagement is on the rise, we're ready to move to phase 2, student achievement, and really start seeing those gains in achievement, starting at step 3, which is to engage every student. So the way I learned this was, again, starting my first year. And while I was writing the book, I actually found a video of my first year of teaching, and I laughed for about an hour straight. I had my husband come watch it. He didn't think it was that funny because he's a software engineer, but man, I thought it was hilarious. And then I took a more introspective look. And there were 7 minutes of direct instruction, and I asked 25 questions during those 7 minutes, which honestly, I'm pretty proud that I asked that many questions in 7 minutes. However, I asked them all expecting choral responses, expecting the whole class to just be like 15 or, -4 or whatever the answer was. And I see that in classrooms all the time, right? We ask these questions hoping for a choral response, but what really happens? Well, what happened in my video was one student, DeAndre, he shouted the answer 12 times. 12 times, one student answered 12 times. Do you have that kid that answers 12 times? Because I have that kid. Another student, Brian, he shouted the answer 3 times. You'll notice those are both male names. I heard a girl's voice shout the answer only twice. And I said shh 7 times and called out specific student names to stop talking 5 times. Right? There was a lot of that. And then it was the comment that really got me and that I hear teachers saying all the time in their math classrooms as well. I need to hear more people participating, right? We are asking all these questions, hoping to hear from the whole class answering us, but in reality, that's not what's happening. We're only hearing from a few people. So my first year was also a year of tremendous experimentation. I had to just keep swimming, even though I didn't want to do it. But I kept trying and tweaking things to find out what would work for my students. And I don't remember, exactly what book I read or what conversation I had with a colleague that spurred this particular idea. But I realized that with just a small tweak to what I was doing in my class, I could have more accountability for my students, more ownership, more collaboration. So I tried this tweak, and sure enough, it worked. I hope you noticed the just keep swimming in this class photo, because that did become my class motto. Shout out to Miss Edwards, my across the hall neighbor in South Central for the idea. And 3 years later, this was my 3rd year in the classroom. my instructional coach, Sue, wrote this on my formal evaluation. She is expertly skilled at creating an environment where all students feel valued and are motivated to learn because their teacher believes they can. So I would have never believed such glowing remarks from an administrator were possible, considering that absolute train wreck where my classroom started. And it was possible for me, and it is absolutely possible for you. So you might be wondering, is she going to tell me what those tweaks are? So those tweaks have made their way into what I call the Math Wars method. And it's called Math Wars because I loved Star Wars at the time. And I just wanted to show my kids a clip of Star Wars. So I called this Math Wars. And I've now trained hundreds of teachers from all over the US how to use this. And it's been effective for every single group of teachers that have put their time and effort into learning this method. So let's talk more about this framework. Here's a deeper look at the Math Wars method. There are 3 steps. So step 1 is to plan. We need to plan our lessons in such a way that we are chunking similar material together and giving enough practice for our students. Step 2 is to set up our student notes. A lot of times we're using a workbook or we're asking our kids to open the textbook to a particular page. But the problem is those are completely overwhelming to our students who struggle. Remember that amygdala? Remember that hyperactivity in the amygdala? When they open a book to see all of that math writing, their amygdala goes hyperactive. They can no longer recall information. They are not going to retain it till tomorrow, and they are not going to be able to problem solve and persevere. So we need to set up our student notes better. And step 3 is instruction, is the Math Wars method. And it is an explicit instruction approach. So it is not inquiry-based, it is explicit instruction. I believe there is a place for both. I believe we can have inquiry-based lessons or building thinking classrooms lessons. And I believe students who struggle need some explicit instruction. So the Math Wars method is that explicit instruction side. So it will help you deliver content each and every day that you want, that combines gradual release of responsibility with collaboration and the ability to easily gather information for formative feedback. So that way we know in the exact moment which student is understanding the material in real time. And that's how we catch those gaps in real time. So how can we use it today? I want to go to that step 2, student notes, because this has been the biggest aha moment for teachers that start implementing the Math Wars method. So my one big tip for step 3 is to stop asking students to open their workbooks or to take notes. Instead, try this. So this is a picture that a teacher, Sarah, sent me of her math lab class. And these were the notes that her students had taken. So, when was the last time you had a class full of repeaters that took such wonderful notes? So of this, what you do, you can see her paper is folded into 8 boxes. I say hot dog weigh once, hamburger weigh once, hot dog weigh twice. That'll create 8 boxes. And then you go one problem at a time with your students in a structured way. That is the Math Wars method. Actually, 4 of these 8 problems students did as in their small groups. So the teacher only takes them through 2 of the problems. The other 2 of the chunk are done with their groups, and you can learn more about it inside the Math Wars method. I'll tell you more about that in just a moment, but at the very least, try this tomorrow. Ask your kids not to open their workbook, but to fold a paper into 8 boxes. And then I want you to just go one question at a time. Allow some group work, allow some modeling to happen as well, and just be amazed at how that calms down the amygdala, how it stops that hyperactivity, and students with math anxiety and math trauma are going to be able to engage, because a workbook or a textbook, it's overwhelming. A plain piece of paper with no structure is also overwhelming. Students don't know where to write or what to write, but this gives them a very wonderful just organization method for that. Another teacher, JB, said that they used the 8-box organizer, they did block review, and again, kids were with me every step of the way. It's saved today from being a classroom management nightmare, right? So it really does work for tons and tons of teachers. So step 1 was to build that community. Step 2, use those routines to boost confidence. Then we are going to engage every student with the Math Wars method. And then the next step is really on us to advance our own expectations of what our students can do. So let's dig into how I learned this step. So new school, same motto. I hope you see my just keep swimming there. This was my 5th year in the classroom. I was 2 weeks into the school year starting, and my admin walked in and said, you know what, for your ninth grade math support class, like this class you see right here, I actually just want you to teach the regular integrated math one content instead of teaching them the remedial middle school content we asked you to teach. And immediately my mind raced with questions, right? Like, could I do this? Could I actually teach integrated math one to students who we have the data, they failed every year of middle school math. Is this really a good idea? Could I do this? Could they do this? If I'm being honest, I was wondering that. What will I do about all their missing skills? How will I teach students how to solve a multi-step equation when they don't know how to multiply, right? All those thoughts raced through my head. And since I wanted to keep my new job, this was my new school after we moved to Colorado, I said yes. I walked into my math support class, this exact class the next day, and I said, starting today, we're going to learn integrated math one in here. And I know that you didn't do great in middle school. And so I'm going to make sure that you get the support that you need to do the math one work, but I believe you can do math one. So I'm going to teach you math one. And I watched as something changed within each and every single student that day. Students who had spent the last few years learning the same things over and over and over again suddenly heard that I wasn't going to print the pages of fraction practice. I wasn't going to print the drill and kill multiplication sheets, that they'd get the same textbook as their quote smart friends. And one student put it all together. He said, so I'm going to get integrated math one credit so I can graduate on time. And when I confirmed this, his motivation went through the roof, and it did not fall the rest of the school year. And let me cut right to the point. My math support class performed equally to my regular classes. And in some cases, they even outperformed my true integrated math one kids. And I share this with you to say that I have truly been where you are, right? A classroom full of students who have failed math for multiple years, don't know how to multiply, don't know how to work with negative numbers. And I have tried something that made me super uncomfortable. And I was unsure if it was a good idea. I was unsure if I could do it. But honestly, it was the best thing I could have ever done for my students. And now I truly believe it's what we should all be doing in our intervention classes and in our core content classes if we have a lot of kids who are multiple grade levels below. So let's talk about the framework that we can use for elevating or advancing our expectations. And before we get to the framework, we need to talk about some expectations, because this step of the framework is actually a shift in my own mindset, in my expectations of what my kids can do. I needed to shift that in order to see my students make extraordinary gains. And it makes sense when I look at the research. Research says that students with teachers who have high expectations for student success against grade level content gained an additional 5 months of learning compared to students in classrooms who didn't have grade level expectations. And also John Hattie's work, a meta-analysis of 252 influences and effect sizes related to student achievement. Of 252, the number three most impactful way to increase student achievement was teacher estimates of achievement. And finally, in the Pygmalion effect study, which was done in 1968, a lot of us learned about it in our credentialing programs, our teacher licensing programs, revealed that when teachers expected their students would do well academically, when they were said that this group of students were gifted, it actually became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the children that were labeled as gifted did in fact score higher on academic tests than students not labeled as gifted, even though the labels were determined at random. Right? It does become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So just like me, I say this with all the love, you must also decide to give students access to grade level mathematics. And it is possible. It's called a just-in-time approach to intervention. It has 4 steps. So step 1 is to focus, because when we teach a just-in-time math intervention approach, we cannot teach all of the same information that we would normally get to in Algebra 1 or Integrated 1. Instead, we have to focus. What is the essential content of the grade level content? We have to develop that focus. Then we need to identify the gaps for that grade level content that we're focusing on. What are the gaps from prior years that student might need some support with? And then step 3 is to create a plan. You're going to need to spend some extra days, a day or maybe more, helping to fill those gaps just in time for the grade level content. And then finally, step 4, you're going to need to teach it all. And, I suggest the Math Wars method, which we just talked about. Maybe you use an inquiry-based approach or building thinking classrooms, great, whatever works for your students who struggle. When you follow these steps, you'll be able to catch students up to grade level faster than you imagined. But we can't just start here, right? You can't just say, oh, this sounds good. You have to start with building community. Right? You have to build that foundation before you're going to see any progress here. So how can you use this today? Because I know this might feel a little overwhelming. And if it does, I want you to think of this. For your content that you're teaching tomorrow or next week, think of one grade level problem for an upcoming lesson. And then I want you to think of one prerequisite problem for that. And then one prerequisite problem for that. And then one prerequisite problem for that. Try to find 3 or 4 prerequisite problems to help you think of this just-in-time approach. So let's see it with a real example. Let's say our grade level question that we want our students to achieve is solving an equation with X on both sides. In order to do that, they need to know 2-step equations. Even though that's a prior year's content, I need to do, probably a day of 2-step equations. Before they can do 2-step equations, and even prior grade level years concept was 1-step equation. I've never had students who knew how to do 1-step equations. So maybe I need to spend a day doing 1-step equations, right? Yes, there's also fluency work. There's also number sense work. There's also combining like terms, distributive. Yes, there is more of that as well. But at a very basic start, I'm going to need 1 to 2 days of providing these just-in-time supports of 1-step and 2-step equations before we get to solving an equation with variables on both sides. So I hope that can help you see the shift. I don't need to do like unit 0 where I do a bunch of 1-step and 2-step equations. Instead, I need to do these intervention supports just in time, just ahead of the grade level content. I hope that helps to clarify that. And there is such power in giving access to grade level content. This is Sarah. She's a 20+ year veteran teacher. She was teaching the Algebra 1 lab class made up entirely of students who had failed Algebra 1 the semester before. And she said she felt like she was talking to herself all day. Now her students are consistently taking notes, answering questions, and we are doing grade level content every single day. I think that is so, so, so powerful. And because she chose to do grade level content every single day, she ended up with 80% of her students passing within 1 semester. They had all failed. No one was passing at the beginning. Then 80% of her students passed that class. How amazing for those kids. We've talked about step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Once we are seeing that student achievement on the rise, we are ready to move to our final phase, phase 3, which is student motivation, and step 5, know students' level of understanding. So I'm curious if you've ever been frustrated with the homework piles and piles of tests and quizzes on your desk. My desk used to look like this, right? I know I was very frustrated by that. And to make it worse, by the time I finally graded all the homework and the tests, I realized the majority of my kids had failed it. It was completely overwhelming. But then my second year of teaching, my admin forced us all, everyone at the school, to switch to a mastery-based grading system, like a standards-based grading. I'm going to use those words interchangeably. And I wanted to keep my job. Again, it was my second year, so I did it. And let me tell you, I am forever changed. That mastery-based grading is the way to go, especially when you teach students who struggle. So I'll share more about mastery-based grading in a moment, but as a quick intro, it's a shift from grading with the traditional 0 to 100% approach to grading with a rubric of 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And instead of thinking of grades with a traditional system, it's the number correct out of the total number of questions on a quiz or test. With mastery-based grading, it's focused on the type of question the student gets correct. There are 3 different question types: simple, complex, and challenge. Do they get most of the simple questions correct? That's a certain grade. Do they get most of the complex questions correct? That's a certain grade. Do they get most of the challenge questions correct? That's a certain grade. Okay, so it's going to translate that into a rubric score ranging from 0 to 4. And when I did this, not only did my students' motivation soar, but my grading completely lessened, and I had a weekend again. I only graded 1 5-question assessment every Friday, and I stopped grading homework. And I only graded those 5-question quizzes. My desk was clean, not this beautiful, but you get the idea here. So let's talk about the framework. The power is in the Rethinking Math Assessment framework, and it has 3 parts. Part one is understanding the question levels. So understanding what makes a question simple, what makes a question complex, what makes a question challenge. We have to deeply understand that. Part two is going to be the weekly assessment, that 5-question quiz. It's always made up the same way. Number one is a simple question. Number 2, 3, and 4 are complex questions. And number 5 is always a challenge question. So we have to strategically create that weekly assessment and grade it. Then we absolutely need to apply this to summative assessments. How do I grade a benchmark exam using this framework? We go into that in part 3. So you can absolutely be the only teacher to grade with a mastery-based system in your school. You just need to convert the rubric score to a percentage for your traditional gradebook. Teachers ask me all the time, no one else wants to use this, or no one else is going to use this. Can I use it alone? Yes, I have been in systems where everyone is using it, and I have been in systems where I'm the only teacher using it, and it works no matter what. So this is actually my, feel free to take a screenshot. This is my Rethinking Math Assessment Framework rubric to percent conversion system that helps you still use a traditional grade book, but actually grade mastery-based style. So you can screenshot that and check out, read all of the descriptions there to understand it a little deeper. So there are a lot of concerns about grade inflation and passing students along who aren't ready with a system like this. But those concerns could not be further from the truth. So this is Benny. He's a middle school math teacher in Florida. He adopted this grading approach, and he was the only one in his department, the only one in his school doing this. And he saw some insane gains in his state testing data, right? Like it's impressive that these happened on the state test. He had 56% of his kids scoring proficient. After he implemented this roadmap, he had 92% of his kids scoring proficient on the state assessments. And this was also very impressive. He had 0 students, not one student scoring a level 5, the highest level on his state assessment. After implementing this roadmap, he had 39% of his students scoring at the highest level on the state assessment. So a 50% grading floor or mastery-based grading does not mean students are graded easier. In fact, they are being challenged, and it's truly showing. So how can you use this today? I suggest, if it feels overwhelming, just try this. Next time you give a quiz or test, you don't have to do anything different about your quiz or test. Just pull like 3 quizzes to the side. And I want you to go through your quiz or your test, and I want you to identify the simple questions. What do you think was simple on there? Identify the complex questions. What was complex? What was like the core of what you taught? And what were some challenge questions that maybe ask students to apply it more than what you talked about? And if students get the majority of those simple questions correct, I want you to give them a C. If they get the majority of those complex questions correct, I want you to give them a B. And if they get the majority of those challenge questions correct, I want you to give them an A. And I want you to then just take a step back. Does that grade feel accurate to you? And I want you to pass it back to the kids. If this was the score you got instead of the traditional score, how would this make you feel? Would it make you feel more motivated? Would it make you feel like putting in more effort? Would it make you feel like persevering? And get some student feedback on that. And that's really what I suggest to you. So even if it feels overwhelming, just start by like grading 3 quizzes this way. So I hope this framework is painting a picture of where you can go and how you can get there. And obviously each one of these, there's so much more I can share with you to help you achieve your goals. And so if it's okay with you, I'm going to take a minute just to share some additional resources that I've created for you. We're at 43 minutes right now, and I'm just going to share a few more resources with you to finish up our hour together. So the reason we're all here today, but nobody knew it, is because we're celebrating the official launch of my book. And this is the best resource I can share with you. It is my book, right? So inside the book, we're going to cover everything from today, but we go into so much more detail because there's only so much I can provide in 1 hour, right? So in chapter 1, it's titled, Who Are Our Students Who Struggle? And I'll define students who struggle and introduce you to the 3 gatekeeping cycles of mathematics so that you can more deeply understand why students are struggling with math. Chapter 2 introduces you to the Break It Math Intervention Framework. You've already heard a lot about it. You could even skip chapter 2, but it'll be there for you. Chapter 3 is to the first step of the framework, build community. So if you're frustrated by students talking over you during a lesson, or students goofing off and distracting others during class, this is a great chapter for you. So you're going to learn more about helping students overcome math anxiety and math trauma, learn how to calm down that amygdala with intentional and done for you community building activities. Chapter 4 are the routines to boost confidence. Step 2 right there. So if you're someone who is tired of the sound of crickets in your classroom, this is a great chapter. So I tell you all about those 6 core engagement structures, tell you exactly how to facilitate them effectively to boost confidence of students who struggle. Chapter 5 is step 3 of the framework, engage every student. If you're someone who feels like you're talking to yourself all period long, this is a great chapter for you. This is my entire Math Wars method from start to finish. You get to figure out the entire Math Wars method in depth. Chapter 6 is to step 4, advance your expectations. If you're someone who feels stuck teaching the basics just over and over and over again, believing that students need to master the basics before layering on the grade level content, this is going to be a very helpful chapter. So I detail that just-in-time math intervention model and give you planning documents for 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and Algebra 1 so that you can catch students up to grade level faster. And finally, chapter 7 is our last step of the framework. Step 5, to know students' level of understanding. If you're someone who wants to see more motivation on tests and quizzes, this is a great chapter. So I go into the full rethinking math assessment framework. You learn the ins and outs to it, exactly how to implement mastery-based grading in your classroom, the weekly formative assessment and the summative assessments. So you can take a district benchmark, a department common assessment, any summative assessment, and grade it with this rubric. I was truly honored that Dr. Pamela Seda, who I'm sure you all know, she's the co-author of the amazing book, Choosing to See, write an endorsement for the book. I'm so thankful to her that she was willing to take an early read through the book and give me this endorsement. So thank you, Dr. Pamela Seda, for your kind words and your amazing endorsement of this work. But I'm also so proud of the success of the teachers just like you, who you'll read about throughout this book, who applied this roadmap in their classrooms and see massive gains for their students. So Marcia is a Title I high school math teacher in Kansas. She now has seen 3 times the number of students getting A's and B's. But if we're being honest, when things are going better inside our classroom, our life outside the classroom improves too. And Marcia also said, my life outside the classroom has been more fun too. I have more time to enjoy with my family, and it makes my husband very happy to hear positive comments about school, knowing that I'm a happier person. So it is truly hundreds of real teachers just like you who have applied the Break It Math Intervention framework and the strategies and have seen massive gains for their students who struggle. So it is with a great joy that I announce my book, Teaching 612 Math Intervention, is officially available for pre-order. So I am so excited. And before you run off to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or bookshop.org, I need you to stay here a minute longer. So it is available for pre-order. It's actually not shipping until December 30th. And I understand it's actually $34.99. I understand that's a lot of money to pay for a book. So I need to leave you with no excuses about pre-ordering and putting your trust in me to pre-order this book. So here's what I'm going to do. For anyone who pre-orders the book, I am going to give you immediate access to my full Math Wars method workshop. Okay, so all of these comments that you've seen today about Math Wars, 100% participation, all of it starts with Math Wars. This workshop sells like hotcakes. It's my best seller workshop. I sell it for $97, but you literally get it for free when you pre-order my book for $34.99 plus tax. You get it for free. You just have to register your pre-order after you place the order, copy and paste your order number. I'll show you all of this in a minute. You will get immediate access. You don't have to wait till December. Immediate access to this workshop. You can watch it in 90 minutes from start to finish and implement it tomorrow. You get everything. The PDF notes, the planning guides, classroom printables. You're going to get so much. So when you pre-order the book today, you'll not only get the book, you'll get Math Wars Workshop immediate access. The second pre-order bonus are live mini workshops. So throughout the pre-order window, I'll be facilitating free live mini workshops for those who pre-order the book about topics that math teachers of students who struggle want to hear about. Plus, you can ask any question you're having about students who struggle at the end of our live sessions during Q&A. So the sooner you pre-order, the more sessions you get access to. I will be deleting each one before the next one is released. So the sooner you pre-order, the more sessions you get access to. So when you pre-order the book, you'll get the book in December. You'll get immediate access to the Math Wars workshop. You'll get invites to those live mini workshops. And then our third pre-order bonus are downloadable classroom resources. So some of them are in the book and some of them are not. These are in the book, but you'll get access to them immediately. So these are 4 activities to give students hope in mathematics: that honesty, ownership, purpose, and explain. All of those activities are right here. Activities done for you, ready to print, ready to assign digitally, to build that intentional community for students who struggle. Okay, they're going to help identify and heal math anxiety and math trauma. You'll also learn about all 6 of those core engagement structures. I will give you 10 engagement boosting warmups to build confidence in every student. You'll not only get sort of the how to facilitate the facilitator guide, you'll also get 10 done for you slides. These are not in the book. You can only get these if you pre-order. You also get 2 fluency activities specifically for older students who struggle with basic math facts. So these are respectful of their age. These are not in the book, only available for teachers who pre-order. So when you pre-order today, you will get the book in December, the Math Wars workshop immediately, the mini workshops, the downloadable classroom resources immediately. You will also get early access, immediate access to the first 27 pages of the book. This is like unedited. It's my raw manuscript. So yes, there are typos. As soon as I get the cleaned up version back from my editor, I'll be uploading that as well. The pretty version, all stylized, but you get a very raw look at the first 27 pages of the book, all of chapter 1. You also get an implementation roadmap. Our 5th bonus is an implementation roadmap. It's a checklist that you can use to make sure you're getting the most of the pre-order period, as well as what to do after the book arrives. So when you pre-order, you're going to get the book in December. You're going to get immediate access to the Math Wars workshop. You're going to get those live mini workshops with me, downloadable classroom resources immediately, immediate access to the first 27 pages, the implementation roadmap. That is a value of over $480, and it literally will cost you $34.99 plus tax when you order it on Amazon. But I have one more surprise with you to leave you with absolutely no reasons to not pre-order this book today. So if you pre-order by the 23rd at midnight Eastern, I will throw in a curriculum or lesson audit for free. So a personal curriculum or lesson audit from me for free. If you're like, what is that? I was getting a lot of these messages saying, are you familiar with Reveal Math? Any pointers on how to use it with Math Wars? So I said, hey, why don't you send me a couple pages of your book, and I will create a lesson for you. So I did this. I love doing this for Christina. And then like 4 more teachers asked for it. And so I sent her the video. I said, I've never done this before. Can you tell me if it was helpful? She said, this was amazing and so helpful. So I got more and more emails wanting the same thing. So you can see kind of the demo of this. I'm excited to announce that if you pre-order the book before Monday, the 23rd at midnight, I will do the same thing I'm doing right here. I will do this for you. This is personally from me. You upload 1 to 4 pages of your curriculum or your Math War style lesson plan, and I'm going to record a 5-minute video filling in that, that Google Doc right there, providing feedback back on how to make it engaging for students who struggle. So this is only available if you pre-order before the 23rd at midnight Eastern. So I will personally be responding to every curriculum. So this is something that's super special and only available for a very limited time. So let's recap. When you pre-order today, anytime before Monday at midnight, you'll get the book in December, immediate access to Math Wars. You'll get invited to those live mini workshops. You'll get immediate access to the classroom resources, immediate access to chapter 1. You'll get the implementation roadmap, and you'll get the curriculum or lesson audit, a 5-minute video from me. It's over $770 of value. Literally costs you $34.99 plus tax on Amazon. So let's talk about how we get this order. You're going to go to this URL or click the link right below this video, gatebreakerbook.com, because we're going to learn how to be math gate breakers. You're going to order the book. You're going to email me a screenshot of your confirmation, or there's a form on the website. It goes faster if you fill out the form, but if that sounds overwhelming, just email me a screenshot or forward me your confirmation. And then step 3, you'll get access to all bonuses within 24 hours. So all of this is on the website. Just go to gatebreakerbook.com, click the link right below, and it'll take you there. So step 1, you're going to order the book. You'll choose Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or bookshop.org, and you can order the book right there. Copy your order number. And so you place the order. This is me placing the order on Amazon. copy the order number that shows up in your Amazon account, and you can fill out this pre-order verification form, or just backing it up one, you can just forward this to me. When you get your confirmation email, just forward it to me. Any reply, you have my email address, to get access to this video, just email it to me. And me or my assistant will get you uploaded into the portal. So once your pre-order has been verified, you'll get access to the bonuses. Again, it'll go faster if you fill out the form. It'll go slower if you forwarded it to me, because I or my assistant need to look at it. You'll get 2 emails. You've been granted access to the pre-order bonuses, and thank you for your pre-order when your pre-order has been verified. And then you will be able to create a login, enjoy access to all the bonus material through at least through January, probably for a whole nother year. Probably, I think I'm going to extend access all the way to December of 2025. So head over to gatebreakerbook.com. All the information is there. So last time, when you pre-order before Monday the 23rd at midnight Eastern, you are going to get the book in December, immediate Math Wars access, the live mini workshops happening, immediate classroom resources, immediate first 27 pages, the implementation roadmap, and the curriculum or lesson audit, just for pre-ordering the book. So it's going to make so many amazing changes in your classroom. Head over to gatebreakerbook.com. Thank you so much for your time today. So many of you have been with me through this entire process. I started typing the very first word on February 1st, and it has been just an incredible journey. You've given me feedback on what to include. You've given me feedback on the title. You've given me feedback on, most importantly, the cover art. I can't wait to share a little bit more about that story in a moment, or later with you. But thank you so much for being with me through this whole process. I made it. It's 56 minutes. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for pre-ordering the book. Have a good one.